In this video, we're going to be working on making our reloading actually networked. What I mean by that is, for example, I have two clients right here. Oh, let me add another spawn. I had to reinstall the map. So I have client 2 right here and client 1. So when client 2 shoots, I want him or the other person to see the animation of the weapon playing. Now, ignore this for now. Currently, only the server will see the client playing the animation, but we want to alter that. So, in order to do that, we're going to go to our weapon base and we're going to create a multicast. Now, a multicast can be thought of, I don't know if I've used them in this project yet, but a multicast essentially is whenever the actor is, if the actor is relevant, when you, for example, let's say we fire, and in that multicast fire function, we have the animation play. Any actor that's relevant to the actor that just fired will have the animation play for them. So essentially this, but in a multicast. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to copy our server fire function and rename it to multi_fire and change server to net multicast. Now from here, I don't necessarily want to pass the hit results to everybody. Instead, I'd rather just have the first hit be what they kind of, what the effects, well, have the first hit be what kind of dictates the effects, if that makes any sense. So we're going to just replace the T array of F hit results with a simple F hit result instead of an array, and change hit results to hit result. Then we're going to create the implementation of the validate and set it to return true. And on the weapon base, or then we're going to do the same thing for the implementation and just leave it empty. So now we have our multicast function. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and I'm going to copy it, the implementation, go to my weapon semi, and override it. I'm going to move begin play above the server fire, then simply create the implementation of the multicast fire function. So now we have our multicast fire implementation. So what we can do is this is going to be what gets called from the server. So we're going from the client to the server, then from the server back to all the clients. So what we're going to do is if we have ammo, all this stuff's going to go. I'm going to remove the fire animation from the server fire and put it in our multicast fire function. Then going through the list at the very end, after all like the hit data and stuff like that has been done and dealt with and set, what I'm going to do is simply call multi-fire. Make sure you call multi-fire, not multi-fire implementation. Then we need to pass in a hit result. Well, we're not going to be doing anything with hit results at the moment for effects and all that kind of stuff. So we're just going to do hit results and get the first index, like so. So now we should have the fire animation playing in the implementation. I'm also going to remove the log for displaying that we're shooting the 1911, as well as the logs for saying the client ammo and the server ammo, just to clean it up. Just going to go ahead and recompile. We're going to end up making some changes to this, but we're just going to confirm that it's working. So let's see, weapon semi, line 32. Why the heck are you there? Alrighty, let's give it a try. Alright, play with two clients. As you can see, the animation is playing on the pistol. Reload is not, but they're both able to see the fire animation play, and let's confirm that the server can see it as well, which obviously it should. So the server sees it, and client should not see the server, which he does not. So everything is working as intended right now. There is one thing we want to change. So this fire animation is currently playing twice. So whenever we shoot as a client, we're playing this fire animation right off the bat, assuming we have ammo, and then the server RPC gets called, then the multicast RPC gets called, which plays the fire animation for us again. So what we're going to want to do is check it for the local player. If we are not, then we want to play the animation. So we're going to do if a pawn, because pawn is the base class of a character. We're just kind of going back to whatever has the ability to do is locally controlled. We're going to do if a pawn equals cast to a pawn from get owner. So if we're going to do if pawn is locally controlled and fire animation. So what we're going to do is if the pawn is not locally controlled and the fire animation is valid, then we play the fire animation. So this will make it so it only will play the fire animation for other clients and not ourselves, because we don't need it to play twice. So now let's go ahead and get the server working. So when the server fires, the clients do not see it. So when we go down here, so if we're not the server, we call server fire, that would trigger the multicast. Otherwise we return. So no RPCs are made. So what we're gonna do is change this around. So if is server, else, then what we're gonna do is, I'll show you here in a second. So multi underscore fire, hit results, index 0 like before. So what we're gonna do is if we're the server, we're gonna go ahead and call the multicast event. If we are not the server, we call the server event or the server RPC, which then calls the multicast event. So I'm gonna go ahead and compile, and this should set that up so our fire animation is good to go, at least for the weapon. Then we're gonna move on to the reload animation, and that's gonna be where we stop this video. So let me close down the editor and relaunch. All right, let's give it a test. So here's the server. Server sees the client, and the client now sees the server at the top left. So that is good to go. Now we need to work on our reload. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. Just copy that. Well, actually, let's copy the server reload instead. Just change it to multi-reload. And net multicast. Then create our validate and implementation. So just return true. And keep the implementation empty and the weapon base. So I'll go ahead and copy the implementation function for a multi-reload. Go to weapon semi and override it. And create the implementation. Go ahead and start the compile to save time later. And let's go ahead and move this down above our reload. So we can actually do, since we're handling the reload entirely inside a weapon base for, this specific well, I guess pretty much the majority of the firearms. We can actually go to weapon base and let's look. So we have just a reload, we have server reload. So what server reload is going to do is we don't necessarily need all of this information, but at the same time, what we could do is just simply have this animation run. So we're just going to be lazy, copy the reload animation, put it in our multi reload implementation. And inside of our server reload implementation, we're going to want to call multi reload. Okay, let me just step through this in my head. So on the client, we reload, we play the animation for ourselves, no delay. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the logs here for the ammo. And we check if we're the server. Well, if we're not the server, we call server reload. So let's do our if else again. So if we are the server, we want to call multi reload. If we are not the server, we call server reload. So we go server reload. Server reload then recalls the function reload, which goes through and handles everything that is pretty much needed. And calculates everything, and then it'll call multi-reload. So we're going to remove the multi-reload call here. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to do a check. So remember that cast before for the checking for the APON? We're going to copy this cast, go to our weapon base.cpp. We're going to do if APON. We're going to move this if statement for the reload animation up here. Do if pawn is locally controlled and reload animation. Then we play the reload animation. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and compile, and I'm gonna go ahead and explain. So starting from, let's say we're a client, we press R, we're good to go, we reload. But we're gonna check and see if we're locally controlled. So the owner of this weapon, if it's us that initiated the reload, if it is, then what we do is we play the reload animation. Then we go through and we do the usual, we're gonna calculate the ammo change. So this will be done on the client, and that's going to be so when we reload that change, we don't have to really deal with any sort of lag or delay between when we start the reload and when we actually see we'll get the change in the values. Then what we do is we check if we're the server. Since we're the client, we're not the server, so we're going to be running this else statement. So we're going to call server reload. Now what server reload is going to do, it's going to call reload again, but this time we're going to go through, we're going to do this check, see if we're the sorry about that, I got interrupted. And I literally already recorded this other half after continuing again, along with 2 more videos, only to realize that I had my microphone muted because I got interrupted. So anyways, let's go ahead and continue. So as I was saying, we are now on the server, so we're going to do again, that is locally controlled check. This should be turned false now that we're on the server. Then we're going to go through and we're going to set the ammo difference, well, the ammo from our total ammo into our magazine accordingly on the server. And since these are replicated, it will also, just in case anything like any sort of desync kind of happened or someone tried to cheat, the ammo will be set on the server and replicated back down to the client. And now that we're on the server, this will be true. So we call multi-reload. Multi-reload, and we'll check if the reload animation is valid and play it. Now this will work fine, but it's also, well, now that we have everything in our weapon base, we don't need that overridden portion of multi-reload in our weapon semi. So we can go ahead and remove those. And if you don't remove them, you'll have an issue because it'll be calling the overridden one. So now we have this setup. Well, this will run on all clients, including the person that called it. So the person that called it's already having the reload animation play. We need to check if they're the locally controlled or not in order to determine whether or not they should play it. So if they are locally controlled, they do not play it. So that way it doesn't play twice. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this section here and paste it into multi-reload for the implementation. That way we're going to check. So if we are not locally controlled and the reload animation is valid, go ahead and we will play the animation. So it should allow us to see it on both the client and the server whenever the client reloads. Keep in mind, remember this is only for the weapon, not the arms. That will be next. Okay. Here we have the client. Load. As you can see, the reload animation plays. And same thing with the server. So we now have the reload animation and the fire animation playing and working along. Let's just check as clients. Good to go. And good to go. So we are fine. And our reload animation now plays on any relevant clients. So in the next one, we will go through and we will make this work for the arms as well. So that way we can see the player's arms work with the animation. And I will discuss why we will be doing that instead of well, the way we're going to be setting that up and why we're going to be setting it up that way in the next video. So I will see you in the next one.